Words can express an idea, but it takes a story to express a perspective. Today we're going to cover one very specific story, in fact, the most simple story. I'm planning to make a whole series on great storytelling, but I want to start with one question. Why does storytelling exist? I feel like we have to start at the why before we can get to the most important parts here. Perhaps this is the most important part. With stories, they exist for one reason, is to communicate information. But it's not just information like stop, go, or yes, no. It's something a lot more complicated than that. Human beings are a finite creature, and I think we understand this at a core level. It's things like stories that we use to be able to experience that which we're not able to experience. It's the way that we can know as cavemen not to go into a dangerous place that we didn't even know existed. It's a way to know about pleasures that we may not have experienced ourselves. Storytelling goes deep into the core of who humans are, and it's central to our way of communicating information. So in order to understand storytelling as a whole, we have to understand storytelling at its simplest form. Let's start with the simplest story. The simplest story has three parts. It has a beginning, a middle, and an end. Yes, we know this. This is something that probably doesn't need to be taught in a video. We also know that the simplest story has one main character, right? It's only about one thing. What's interesting, and I think the most valuable thing that I can teach in any lesson on storytelling, is that the truths for the simplest story are also the truths for all great stories. All great stories have a beginning, a middle, and end. All great stories have a singular focus, be it inanimate, be it an idea, be it a human, be it something else. This is a common theme that we see for all great stories. But what about plot twists, and what about secondary characters? Well, of course these exist. These serve to be great tools. I think what's important about them, though, is that they serve a greater purpose. The plot twists and the B characters are not exactly about themselves. They're reinforcing other points about the main character or the main idea. This is interesting because it's not just about them. They're really serving as a contrast or as a different opinion in order to reestablish something that's being said as a dramatic theme. Throughout the rest of this series, we're gonna focus in on that point, these truths of what make a great story. We're gonna understand how this has been done in the past and what we can do to make our stories better in the future. Before we get into the rest of the series, I want to give you 3 actionable takeaways to start out with, something you can use to make your future stories much, much better. The first one is to focus on the intent of the character. Now, the character can vary. It could be a product, it could be an idea, it could be a game, it could be anything you want. The important here is not to focus on the results of what's going on there, but more on the intent, the why is the character doing what it is. That's where people get really drawn into a story. That's the valuable information that cavemen were looking for, not so much that XYZ did WRX. What we're looking for here is the intent, the why. The second tip is that great stories have formulas, be it Joseph Campbell's Hero with a Thousand Faces or be it like Walt Disney's way of conducting visual storytelling. The interesting thing is why all great stories have these formulas, the experts disagree on which one's the best. I think that's where us as storytellers really get to make our own decisions, get to influence our ideas in those kind of ways. The last tip is the one that I'm going to try to focus the most on this series. It's that storytelling can only be learned by listening to great storytellers and great stories. So throughout the series, we're going to cover a lot of great storytellers and hear their stories so we can use that as an example for our future stories. Okay, that's all that I can cover in this short video, but we got plenty more to dive into. If this idea intrigues you, if you want to improve your stories more going forward, feel free to subscribe to this channel or look at the other videos that I'll have linked to in just a second or in the video description below.